A very good evening. It's the 8th of April 2023. Welcome to the prime time news here on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Sanitha Senanayaka. Before we take a look at the stories that we've got for you this evening in detail, let's take a look at the headlines.
US military movements in Diego Garcia can be monitored. China proposes setting up radar base in Sri Lanka, says report. Anti-terrorism bill continues to face opposition.
අද රට තුල උද්ගත වෙලා තියෙන ජනතාවගේ උද්ඝෝෂණ බඩගින්න නිසා වෙන්න පුළුවන් ජනතාවගේ බඩගින්නට විරුද්ධව ගෙන ආයුධයද මේ.
Instead of the Anti-Terrorism Act, the Anti-Corruption Act should be presented, says opposition leader. Sri Lanka's first female professor of medicine, Priyani Soisa, dies. Youth killed in car accident in Thottagamuwa, Matale. 8 others also injured. New Zealand win T20 international series against Sri Lanka.
Many factions point out the passage of a repressive act at a time when the country should be driven towards a democratic direction will result in a destructive outcome. They express serious concern regarding the broad definition of terrorist and terrorism in the proposed Anti-Terrorism Act.
In the proposed Anti-Terrorism Act, the definition of terrorism is vague and overboard and can include peaceful protests or acts that, while criminal, do not rise to the level of any reasonable definition of terrorism. Authorizes the issuing of detention orders to Deputy Inspector Generals of Police, increasing the risk of abuse. Provides the President power to issue regulations for rehabilitation programs if the Attorney General has decided to defer or suspend prosecution. The President, on the advice of the police or military, would be authorized to declare any location a prohibited place with up to 3 years in prison for violations. Considering the changes proposed in the Anti-Terrorism Act, many experts believe the Anti-Terrorism Act is far more dangerous than the PTA. It's clear as to why those who didn't take any action against terrorism during the Easter attacks are suddenly so keen to introduce these acts in order to suppress the people. Anyone can be arrested over suspicion without a court order. There is in fact a movement in the United States called the Black Lives Matter. At that time, the movement stood for the rights of black people. It was never labeled as a terrorist movement in the US. No acts or bills were brought against it. The protests in Sri Lanka today are perhaps due to hunger, or maybe it's because parents are struggling to provide for their children, or it could be due to inflation, or because people are left helpless. And this is the weapon that's been brought against the hunger of the people.
ත්‍රස්තවාදය කියන එක සම්බන්ධයෙන් නිශ්චිත අර්ථකථනයක් මේක තුල නැහැ.
There is no clear definition for the word terrorism in this. The global phenomenon known as terrorism has not been clearly explained in this anti-terrorism bill. We can clearly identify terrorism, but can we call protesters terrorists? Can a Facebook post expressing opinions against the president or state be called terrorism? For example, if a journalist is filming something and that journalist is arrested by the police and his camera is seized, the magistrate cannot release the journalist without police approval. That journalist can be imprisoned for up to 5 years. Through this act, the freedom of speech is restricted by instilling fear in the people.
උන්ට කතා කිරීමට තිබෙන නිදහස පාලනය කිරීමක් තමා ප්‍රතිත්‍රස්ත පනත හරහා සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ.
The Freedom Defenders organization convened a press conference today and explained the possible implications of the anti-terrorism bill.
If this anti-terror bill is passed, we cannot even write a letter to the UN. Terrorist acts do not apply to transnational security. They can accuse us of weakening the sovereignty of the state. The UN can be banned. The problem here is not just for the people of this country. Clearly, journalists, international media organizations, Amnesty International, Transparency International, the representatives of these organizations in Sri Lanka will be arrested and detained for 3 months and imprisoned for up to a year if this bill is passed. That is the truth.
Opposition leader Saji Premadasa says that the government should propose an anti-corruption bill immediately instead of an anti-terror bill.
ඉතාමත්ම ඉක්මනින් ශක්ති සම්පන්න විධිමත් දූෂණ
A strong and effective anti-corruption law is yet to be passed. Acts of fraud which took place through the Pandora Papers result in the bankruptcy we're facing today. So what this government should do is not suppress the people of this country by bringing anti-terror laws, but by presenting a strong anti-corruption law to punish those responsible for corruption, bribery, pocketing commissions and smuggling rackets. All those people should be brought before the law.
ජාවාරම්කාරී ගනුදෙනු ඒ සියල්ලකටම වගකිව ඒ සියලුම දෙනා නීතිය හමු.
Comments were made regarding MPs who were elected to parliament through the SJB and yet expressed their support for the government.
ඇමති කටු සූප්පපු කඩනායමක් ඉන්නවා සමහර අය ඇවිල්ලා.
Some people are desperate for ministerial portfolios. So if someone from the SJB wants to beg for a ministry or a ministerial portfolio, please stand opposite the presidential secretariat and start begging. Then everyone will know that this person is begging for a ministry. The people of this country need to know of such blatant lies.
මේ රටේ ජනතාව දැනගන්න ඕන මේ කරන්නේ මහා පට්ටපල් බොරුවක්. දැන් අපේ පක්ෂෙත් ඉන්න
There is one or two members in our party who are of two minds. They've got their feet in both camps. They're after ministerial portfolios, but they don't want to face the election with Ranil. They need Sajid for the election. We as the party will take a decision regarding these persons. They keep praising Ranil. If Ranil is good, then why don't you leave this JB? If Welgamer contested from the SLPP last time, he would have lost. Leave this JB and join Ranil. We say to the opposition leader that a decision has to be reached regarding these individuals who keep praising Ranil. They have to be removed from the party. If a decision is not reached, we will have to think hard about this. As it was mentioned in the headlines, China has proposed setting up of a radar base in Sri Lanka. A report claimed this is with the aim of countering India's naval presence and strategic oversight in the sea of Sri Lanka. The Economic Times reports that the proposed radar base will focus on monitoring the activities of the Indian Navy while also evaluating New Delhi's strategic assets in the region.
Of Sciences is the likely agency which is steering this project in Dondra Bay. It is reported that the proposed radar will have the capability to track US military movements at its military base in Diego Garcia, an island of the British Indian Ocean Territory, an overseas territory of the UK located over 1,700 kilometers southwest of Dondra Bay. The proposed Chinese oversight installation in Sri Lanka is likely to have the range as far as the Andaman and Nicobar Islands to its east, the report further added.
Meanwhile, China's military has begun rehearsing the encirclement of Taiwan during 3 days of military drills.
Beijing, which views Taiwan as a breakaway province of China, called the operation a stern warning to the island's government. Although China often holds drills around Taiwan, the encirclement is being seen as a response to Taiwan's President Tsai meeting US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Wednesday. Following her return, President Tsai said that her government would continue working with the US and other democracies as the island faces continued authoritarian expansionism from China. The Taiwanese Defense Ministry said 42 Chinese military planes and 8 ships crossed the Taiwan Strait median line. The line is an unofficial dividing line between Chinese and Taiwanese territory. Chinese state media said the military drills would simultaneously organize patrols and advances around Taiwan Island, shaping an all-round encirclement and deterrence posture. It added that long-range rocket artillery, naval destroyers, missile boats, air force fighters, bombers, jammers and refuelers had all been deployed by China's military.
We'll go in for a short commercial break. Stay with News First.
Leading Tamil television channel Shakti TV proudly presents Upcountry Beat Music Festival. Indian playback singers V.M. Mahalingam and Rakshita, along with leading musical band in Sri Lanka, Surya's The Mega Musical Show. on the 9th of April 2023 at 6 p.m. Join us at the Talwakale Municipal Council ground.
Welcome back to the news. The first female professor of medicine in the country, Emeritus Professor of Pediatrics at the University of Colombo, Priyani Soisa, has died. Professor Soisa was 97 years old at the time of her demise, giving opportunities for mothers to be with their children at children's wards, working to provide maternity leave for mothers up to 3 months, promoting breastfeeding, actively working on the polio eradication project, as well as children's nutrition, are some of her most important contributions for the children of Sri Lanka. The remains of Professor Priyani Soisa will lie at a private funeral parlour in Borella from tomorrow, before being laid to rest at the Borella Cemetery on Monday at 5 p.m. In more local news, one person has died and 8 others have been injured following an accident involving an SUV near Totagamua in Matale.
The accident occurred at around 2 this morning near Totagamua in Matale. Ten young people were inside the jeep at the time of the incident. The accident involved a group of students who had appeared for the 2022 advanced level examination who were returning from a function at Matale, Palapatwala. 19-year-old Dushmanta Situm Vijayasekara, a resident of Totagamua in Matale, died in the incident. Situm Vijayasekara was the captain of the 2021-2022 school cricket team of St. Thomas's College, Matale. He was a talented player and represented the Sri Lanka under-19 cricket team. Hospital sources said the driver and another youth were seriously injured and are being treated at the intensive care unit of the Matale General Hospital.
A Sri Lankan Airlines flight scheduled to fly to Dubai returned to the island in an emergency landing at the Bandaranaike International Airport after a 15-hour delay. The UL225 flight was scheduled to depart at 6:25 p.m. yesterday. Ultimately, the flight departed at 9:30 this morning.
Our correspondent reported that the flight returned to the island around 1 hour and 10 minutes later, which was 10:40 a.m. Our report added that the chief pilot had decided to carry out an emergency landing after noticing cracks on the plane's windshield. The flight had been in close proximity to India at the time. The Sri Lankan Airlines flight was carrying 189 passengers and 15 cabin crew members. According to a source from the BIA, the passengers are scheduled to leave the Katunayake airport and head to Dubai later this evening.
Now in more local news, the illegal felling of trees within state land was reported from Trincomalee. A group had illegally cleared a section of a state forest reservation that comes under the Pulmude Forest Conservation Zone in Trincomalee. Around 20 acres of land had been cleared and large number of trees that were standing tall for decades have been cut down. Among the trees that were cut down were those that are rare and are categorized as threatened species. According to locals, heavy machinery had been used to clear the area by a group claiming that they were in possession of permits and licenses to fell the trees and clear the forest. In addition, trees with high economic value located within other areas of the forest reservation have also been cut down for timber. News First came across a man who was involved in this process, and he claimed that he was deceived into taking part in the illegal act.
බියපමාත්‍ය පාරට හමුණා කතා කරා මේ ලීර්ලා දෙන්න කිව්වා. ටින්ගෝ පොලිසියට අරයන් ඕන තමයි කිව්විලා ලී ලිස්ට් එක දුන්නා. ඊට පස්සේ කස් බලන්න කිව්වා. මං කස් බැලුවා. වෙටේ පටන් ගන්න වෙලාවට කෝල් දෙන්න කිව්වා බියපමාත්‍ය. ඒ වෙලාවට බියපමාත්‍යට කෝල් දුන්නා රෙකෝඩ් කරලා තමයි කෝල් දුන්නේ. හෙලෝ වෙටේ පටන් ගන්නද? පටන් ගන්න. කවුරුහරි ආවොත් මේ තිගුණාලේ පොලිසියට වැඩකට ඉරන්නේ පොලිස් එක මාත්‍ය කිව්වේ කියලා මට කෝල් එකක් දුන්නා.
News First contacted the forest officer for the area, Janaka Ratnayaka, and he claimed he cleared the area with the permission of the Kuchaveli Divisional Secretary. However, Kuchaveli Divisional Secretary K. Kunanathan said he never gave permission for such an act as claimed by the forest officer. It's been 3 years since the April 21st attacks devastated the Sri Lankan society and claimed over 200 lives, local and foreign. Tonight, we bring you a story of a foreign national who lost his siblings in the attacks and is back on the island to support its health sector. Emily and Daniel Lindsay, brother and sister of David Lindsay, died on the 21st of April 2019 by a bomb explosion at Shangri-La Hotel, Colombo. 3 years after that, David decided to contribute to society through Emily and Daniel Lindsay Foundation, which he established later on in memory of his siblings.
So we're here today in Sri Lanka for 3 reasons. The first and most important is we're here with a team of 5 cleft lift nurses, and what they're doing is they're attending a workshop in Gaul and then going to the new cleft lift centre in Nuwara Elia, where they'll be training nurses for a few days. And then we're also here to see how we can be most helpful in the future. So we're currently working not only with the National Hospital, but also with the 1990 ambulance service, and it's our hope that we'll be able to donate them an ambulance to cover the northern Jaffna province by the end of the year.
David is in Sri Lanka to support cleft lip and palate surgery training in Sri Lanka. News First spoke to Dr. Manjula Herath of the District General Hospital Nuwara regarding the programs carried out by the Emily and Daniel Lindsay Foundation.
We did a training of our nursing officers, midwives, speech and language therapists, and all the supportive staff involved in the care, especially regarding the cleft feeding. In these babies, feeding is a big problem, and they supported us with training our staff with feeding mainly this time around. Most of the people would not like to go back to the country if something like this happened, and it is very kind of him and generous of him to come back to Sri Lanka and do work on these areas. And I know that not only in the cleft lip and palate, but also in the areas of emergency care and the trauma care, he's doing a lot for the Sri Lankan people.
It was important to continue the legacy that Daniel and Emily had started to build during their lifetimes, well beyond what had happened and well into the future. So for all the other victims and their families, first of all, I understand what you're going through. Second of all, we won't be defeated by terrorism, we'll stand strong and we'll show them that they will never achieve their objective. All the while, we'll keep fighting for justice and to preserve the memories of our loved ones. We're not going to be disturbed by anything that's happened before or since. So thank you to the people of Sri Lanka for your understanding and hospitality.
Speaking to News First, David said he hopes anyone who is directly or indirectly responsible for the April 21st attacks be brought to justice. Emily and Daniel Lindsay Foundation says it continues to work and collaborate with Sri Lankan medical institutions on requirements of the Sri Lankan medical field. The LOLC Divisavya program, striving to uplift the lives of the future generations of Sri Lanka, continued today. Books and other stationery items were distributed among students in the Anuradhapura district. The Divisavya program is focused on providing books and stationery items to school students from the most economically challenged parts of Sri Lanka. This praiseworthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. The program will support hundreds of thousands of children from around 3,000 schools across Sri Lanka. Today's program took place in the Kakirava and Galanbindunuwava education zones of the Anuradhapura district. School books and stationery items were distributed among students from Pallekagama, Maminiava, Puliyankulama and Amunichya schools of the Kakirava education zone. The Divisavya program was also carried out at the Galanbindunuwava education zonal office. School books and equipment were also distributed to the children of Aliyawatanuwava Primary School, Parakum Muriya Kadavala College, Vembuwava College and Uddiyankulama College this afternoon. The LOLC Divisavya program will continue to touch the lives of children living in rural Sri Lanka in the days to come. For the first time in 25 years, people of Dahiyattakandiya were able to celebrate the Sinhala and Tamil New Year on a grand scale. We'll bring you the details right after this short commercial break.
දහසකට අධික ජනතාවගේ පිරිසිදු පානීය ජල අවශ්‍යතාව සපුරාලමින් මහකර බෑව ගම්මානයට ජල පෙරණ පද්ධතියක් ලබා දීම පසුගියදා ගම්මැද්ද විසින් සිදු කරන ලදී. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පෞර.
Once the IMF decides to help us out, I feel all the other partners also will have to join in.
We believe the independence of judiciary is very important. This is the only forum that people have to go there and present their cases.
Elections has to be periodically held. That is a requirement.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live.
Newsline, Monday to Friday at 8:30 p.m. on TV1.
අධ්‍යාපනය ව්‍යවස්ථාව කෘෂිකර්මය ආර්ථිකය සෞඛ්‍ය ජාත්‍යන්තර බුද්ධිමය සංවාදය බ්‍රහස්පතින්දා රාත්‍රී 10:30 මාවත.
Welcome back to the news. The Sinhala and Hindu New Year is 6 days away. This year, Sirasa TV, the largest media network in the country, celebrated the upcoming Sri Lankan New Year with the people today in rural Dehiyattakandiya. The massive event saw the participation of hundreds of thousands of people of all walks of life in a day filled with traditional events and activities. The Sirasa Vasantodane was held at the Mahavali grounds in Dehiyattakandiya.
The Sirasa Vasantodane, the biggest New Year festival in the country, took place with traditional entertainment performances showcasing the essence of the farming community of Dehiyattakandiya being highlighted. Sirasa Vasantodane returned to Dehiyattakandiya this year after 2 decades. Dehiyattakandiya is a farming heartland of Sri Lanka. The opening ceremony saw several colourful traditional entertainment items. People from the farming community of the Mahavali Sea Zone, Director General of the Mahavali Authority, Kirti B. Kotagama, Dehiyattakandiya Resident Business Manager, Ubhay Kalyana Kumara, Group Director of the Sirasa TV Network of the Capital Maharaja Group, Shevan Daniel, CEO of Sirasa TV, Attorney Susara Dinal, and President of Sri Lanka Life Saving, Asanka Nanakara, were among others who participated in the opening ceremony.
මහවැලි සී කලාපය ගැන කිව්වොත්
Farmers of 200 movements in the Mahavali Sea Zone use the water from Ulhitia and Ratkin, the twin reservoirs, and 56 bavers transported by a 2,000 kilometer long canal system and cultivate paddy across 60,000 acres in order to feed the country. This is their chance to enjoy themselves after toiling hard last season.
තම දහදිය වගුරුවලා අවසානයේ ඉතා අහිංසක සතුටක් භුක්ති විඳින්නට පැමිණි ගොවි මහත්තුරුනි මේ ඔබේ අවස්ථාවයි.
අපේ මුළු රටටම බැත සපයන
It is the people of the Mahavali Sea Zone who provide rice to the entire nation. They are the ones who worked hard to transform acres of thick forests into paddy fields in order to feed the nation. Farmers had to face many difficulties and their harvest levels dropped to near zero after certain decisions were taken. But some of them did not abandon their cultivation activities. Despite these challenges, they worked tirelessly to provide rice to meet the demand of the nation. As a show of respect, we decided to bring Sirasa Vasantodane to your doorsteps.
කළා. ඒක නිසාම ඔවුන්ට කරන ගෞරවයක් විදිහට සිරස අද වසන්තෝදානේ රැගෙන ඔබේ ගමට පැමිණිලා තිබෙනවා. ඉතින් ආදරණීය ජනතාවනි ඇත්තටම අද අපි සමරන්නේ
This is not just another New Year celebration. Today, we are celebrating something different. The Sri Lankan culture is powerful and existed before the Portuguese, Dutch and British colonized us. Our rich and diverse culture existed long before even nations like America and India were established. Therefore, nobody can tear apart our culture. Nobody can divide us. Our culture cannot be divided by party politics. And so this new year, let's commit ourselves to taking our country back. Let's commit ourselves to protect the sovereignty of our people. Let's store this in our hearts and work determinedly, not because politics tell us, but for the sake of our people. So let's, as one united nation, courageously step into the new year.
After the opening ceremony, the Sirasa Vasantha Udhanaya got underway. Competitions such as beauty pageant for the Sirasa Vasantha Kumariya, traditional Kottapura games, as well as volleyball and kabaddi games with a modern twist were held at the Mahavali grounds in the Hiyathakandiya. In addition, a village home, which is a traditional home far removed from the advances of modern technology, was set up at the Sirasa Vasantha Udhanaya. Participants also got a chance to take part in other activities such as cycle racing, marathons and a tug of war. And in honour of Sri Lanka's hydraulic heritage, Sirasa TV organised a traditional water sporting event as part of Sirasa Vasantha Udhanaya. The events were held at the Virulanda Veva in the Hiyathakandiya and saw the participation of villagers in swimming and traditional boat racing.
Ekai, Dekai, Tunai!
Vasante Maha Mangalya Taragana Unna, Hiyathakandiya Rabu Gaman Madi, Hiyathakandiya kilometer 15ක් විතර ඇතුළට වෙන්න අපි ඉන්නේ වීරලන්ද වැවේ. වරුදු 10කට ආසන්න ප්‍රමාණයක් මේ වෙද්දි තරග වදිනවා මේ වෙද්දේ අපිට පේනවා ඉදිරියෙන්ම තරගකරුවන් දෙදෙනෙක් මේ.
The Sri Lanka Life Saving Association partnered with Sirasa TV to make sure that everybody was completely safe. K. Chandrakumar of the Mahavenavala unit in the Mahavenavala Mahavali division was crowned as the Mahavali Mahagovia, or the king of farmers in the region.
Emma Chekpata me mohote Sirasa TV wetin api pirinamanawa honda atpala sannaadayak laba denna me obe pradeshayen therunu Mahagovia.
Parindya Lena Patirana was crowned the Sirasa Vasantha Kumariya.
Sirasa Vasantha Udane, Sirasa Soba Silon, Vasantha Kumariya 2023 ලෙසින් අභිෂේක ලත් එම රුවැතිය අද දවසේ මෙසේ පළඳනාවෙන් සහ ත්‍යාග මුදලෙන් අය පිදුම් ලබනවා මේ මොහොතේදී.
A jam-packed musical show featuring some of Sri Lanka's superstar singers is underway in the Hiyathakandiya, wrapping up one of the biggest New Year events in recent history.
In the midst of the current economic crisis, people are finding it difficult to make ends meet. Throughout this year, Gammadda worked to provide relief to our own people who have been battered by the economic crisis. Gammadda set out with relief items for the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, becoming a strength to our fellow Sri Lankans.
In the midst of economic difficulties, our own people struggle to survive. Understanding the situation, Gammadda stepped in to help. It launched yet another initiative to distribute dry rations today. Through this project, which will be carried out until the 12th, dry rations are to be distributed to over 1,000 selected families across the island. Today, the Gammadda teams visited the Chilau, Kurunegala, Gampa, Trincomalee, Kandy, Haliyala, Gaul, Yatiyanduta, Matara and Polonnaruwa districts. Gammadda will always be with the people. In addition to the plethora of rural development projects that are being carried out across the country, Gammadda is continuously committed to helping the people in every possible way.
In international news, a bill has been placed in Parliament with the provision that allows the government to ban any illegal strike if it deems necessary in the public interest. The bill proposes a person who starts or continues an illegal strike shall be punished with imprisonment for a maximum of 6 months or with a fine of 50,000 rupees or both. Keeping these provisions, the Essential Services Bill 2023 was raised in the 22nd session of the National Parliament on Thursday. The bill states that if the government deems it necessary in public interest, the government can prohibit lockout and layoff at any establishment. The new act will repeal the Essential Services Act 1958 and the Essential Services Ordinance of 1958. As per the draft law of the proposed bill, the government can declare the essential status of any service for a maximum of 6 months and would be able to declare any service essential when necessary. Finally, in your sports news, New Zealand won a nail-biting third and final T20 international against Sri Lanka by 4 wickets in Queenstown, New Zealand today. The win meant that the home side took the series 2-1. After winning the toss and opting to field, Sri Lanka posted a competitive 182 for 6 in their 20 overs. Kusal Mendis scored 73 from 48. His knock included 5 sixes and 6 fours. Kusal Janit Pereira was the second highest scorer with 33 of 21. For the Kiwis, Ben Lister picked up 2 for 37 of his 4 overs. In reply, Tim Seifert led a successful chase of 183 with his 48 ball 88. He was eventually dismissed with his side needing just 29 runs from 23 deliveries with 7 wickets in hand. It was at this stage that Sri Lanka turned on the pressure, slowing the hosts down to just 19 runs off overs 17 to 19. It left the hosts needing 10 to win off the last over. Mark Chapman hit a 6 off the first delivery, which seemed to have settled matters. But Sri Lanka went on to produce a team hat-trick of next 3 balls, with Lahiru Kumara picking up 2 wickets and effecting a run out. They had the chance to pick up a 4th wicket in the 5th delivery but missed 2 run-out opportunities. The home side eventually got home with Rachin Ravindra scoring the winning runs off the last ball. New Zealand thus claimed a 2-1 series victory. Sri Lanka won the first game in the super over. New Zealand squared off the series, winning the second game by 9 wickets. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Primetime News here on TV1. For the News First team, I've been Senita Senanayaka. Take care and stay safe.